Welcome to Research Talk. In our previous videos, we talked about second cycle coding strategies. We covered many second cycle coding strategies. We covered pattern coding. We covered focus coding. We covered axial coding. And we also talk about theoretical coding. These are four main methods of second cycle coding strategies. Now, by the time you are done with first cycle coding methods and second cycle coding methods, I'm sure you will reach a stage where you will be having clear ideas and understanding of your data in terms of the emerging themes, categories, and processes. Now, along with your first cycle coding methods and your second cycle coding methods, we also do another thing, which is you keep writing your analytical memo. What is an analytical memo? And your analytical memo are your reflections about what you notice in the data, what you observe in the data, what are some insights that you are developing as you are doing your coding and your data analysis. So you are doing your first cycle of coding, you are doing your second cycle of coding, and at the same time you are thoroughly engaged in writing some analytic memo as well. Now, your first cycle coding, second cycle coding, your analytical memo is together. This whole process will help you to get some sense of, not some sense of, but a clear sense of the themes, categories, and the processes which are inherent in the data. So now the question is, what to do after second cycle of coding? So as I said, by this stage, you have a better, clearer sense of what is there in the data, and you know what are some key themes emerging, what are some key categories emerging from the data, and what might be some possible processes inherent in the data, and what might be some relationship between various categories which are inherent in the data. And that's what is important. There is no further cycle after second cycle, because by the end of second cycle, along with your analytical memos, you are at a stage where you can start writing your findings. Now, sometimes maybe, although it doesn't happen often, sometimes maybe like even after second cycle of coding, you may still wonder that yes, I am, some themes are emerging, but they seem to be very surface level. I can see some categories, but I don't know if it is a complete understanding of the data. So you may, although it doesn't happen often, but maybe sometimes it might happen that even after the end of second cycle coding, you may have some doubts about your understanding of the data and what exactly are some of the inherent categories, processes, themes emerging from the data. Maybe the findings are, you may feel that the findings are more at a surface level. So if you have that sort of sense, even after the second cycle of coding, which I'm sure doesn't happen, but if it does, I recommend some some other strategies that you can apply depending on the need. You don't necessarily have to, but you can apply if even after second cycle coding, you you are not sure about the themes, categories, and the inherent processes in the data. So what might be some possible techniques or approaches that you could use after second cycle coding? So the one approach I recommend, and I learned it over me doing research, I call it puzzle, putting the puzzle together. So in this strategy, what I do is, first of all, you have your, let's say, your categories and your focused codes, second cycle codes, and maybe some major codes from your initial codings. So the first step is write your codes on a piece of paper, and maybe just print it on a piece of paper. So print all categories, focused codes on a piece of paper, and put it on a table. So let's say these are your codes, and on each slip this paper you have written your categories, your focused codes, and I do not number it. I don't organize it in a like numbered form 1 2 3 4. No, I just print all my categories, codes on a piece of paper here, and I spread them on my table. No order, just put all the codes together. And then I look at all of them and ask myself, can I group these various codes in some way? Can I categorize them in some way? Can I organize them in a way that tells a coherent story, tells a coherent story about the phenomenon that I am investigating? Can I do that? So it's like, when you play a puzzle. So what do? You have all these pieces spread on a table, and then you organize them, and by the end of putting this puzzle together, you have maybe a coherent picture of a pond, of anything, of maybe an animal. So it's like you are putting all these puzzles pieces, different pieces which are disorganized, together to create an image. Similarly, the same idea is applied here. I have, let's say, 30 codes, which include categories and focused code. Now, I'm not sure how to organize them and if they tell me a story. So this whole idea of putting a puzzle together is to do this puzzle. So you print all your codes, one code on one slip, and then I put them all on the table. I look at them and I ask myself, can I categorize them in some way based on their characteristics, based on any theme, or can I organize them in such a way that tells a coherent story about the phenomenon I'm investigating? So it's just an intuitive exercise that might help you to develop some deeper understanding of your data. So you can try this method as well after the second cycle, or maybe even after the first cycle coding if you want to get a better sense of your data. So the one strategy is putting the puzzle together. Another recommendation that I give to students is after the second cycle of coding, start writing your findings. So let's say if I'm doing a phenomenology and I am very sure about a very prominent theme which is emerging from the data, but I'm not sure about other themes. So the strategy is you start with the first prominent theme which is emerging from the data and start writing it. So do not wait until the whole picture is clear. It's just like using the puzzle, you know how you solve a puzzle. So you don't have to solve the whole puzzle together. So what you do, you start solving the puzzle from one corner and you figure out one particular corner. Once you figure out the one corner, then gradually you develop a sense of how the other corners should be filled. So that's what applies here is you start writing your findings. So once you write your first finding, which could be a theme, which could be a prominent category, which could be maybe just one part of a theory that you have developed as part of a grounded theory approach of data analysis. So write it. And writing is such a creative process that once you start writing it, it's like if I'm going on a road on a motorcycle and I cannot, let's say it's a very dark road, but the flashlight from my motorcycle, it can show me the road, let's say like 10 meters or 20 meters or maybe 50 meters. And as the motorcycle moves, then the light also moves and then I can see further as I move further. So that's how the process of writing helps you in terms of the data analysis process. So do not wait for the whole picture to be clear. Just if one part of the picture is clear, start writing that. And you will see as you start writing, the other piece of the puzzle will start becoming more sense, and you can start, develop those understanding as you keep writing. So you can use these strategies to develop your better sense of the data after second cycle of coding. Although I feel that after second cycle of coding, after doing pattern focused Excel theoretical coding and also writing your analytical memos, 99% cases you will have a very better, deeper understanding of your data and you will be ready to write your research findings. I'll see you again in another video on data analysis after second cycle coding. I'll discuss some more intuitive, some practical approaches that you can apply along with these second cycle codes. Till then, have a good rest of the day and I'll see you again.